Okay, but we're alive now. Whee-wee. Zooey mama. Yeah,
Don't say that.
Zooey mama.
Imagine hitting it from behind and hitting them with a zooey mama.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Music Box, the show where I, Bimler, enjoyer of music, show an album to my friend Pyrine.
Ah, free at last.
Really?
Oh,
We're breaking out the voice changer now?
now dawns thy music box. And thy opinion shall glisten.
This is how bottom of the barrel we've gotten. You're now going to voice mod for the bits.
It's not bottom. I've done
It
voice
very
mod
clearly
before.
is.
I've done voice mod.
I don't
This
think
is
so.
the thing that is I have.
Not for the
Check
show.
records.
Not for the
You
show.
Check the records.
Oh,
You'll see that I have indeed done voice mod at least
Please
at
turn it
one
off.
point in the past.
Come back to me, Pyrine, please.
You just hate me.
And after a week of listening, we meet up and discuss. But this week's a little bit different, as we listen to an album that just came out. This week we are doing the new Black Country New Road album, Forever Howlong. Now, a little bit of context, as I feel is very necessary with this album in particular. A couple episodes ago on the show, I say a couple, I think about 4 now, we did Ants From Up There, Black Country New Road's previous LP, which I went on record saying is one of my top 3 records of all time. Absolutely adore Ants From Up There, and their debut as well places very high on the list for me for the first time, which I plan on showing you at some point. I don't know if I'll do it on the show, but I probably will. But what's notable about this new album, Forever Howlong, in reference to those first 2 records is, as many people discuss already, the frontman, Isaac Wood, on those first 2 records, left the band shortly before Ants From Up There came out, and has not been with them since. And that left a really big... scrap that. That left really big shoes to fill. I, and many fans like me, were very skeptical about where the band would go. A couple years ago, they released a live album, Live at Bush Hall, which I thought was okay. But I think when I listened to it, I was still in Isaac Wood depression, where I was like, this isn't the Black Country Road I remember. They're just going to be Arcade Fire again. This sucks. Eventually I would revisit it and find that it's just alright. But I was really curious about where they were going to go with this new album. Especially because when the singles came out, I didn't listen to them too much, but I remembered liking them as they came out. My face itches, so I'm going to deal with that really quick.
God, imagine having skin.
Oh. But now that it's here, it's way more interesting than I thought. In terms of how I've received it and how I've seen other people receive it, I figured it was going to be cut and dry one or the other way. They were going to be like, oh, the band has done it. They have surpassed our expectations. They've come back and they're still great. Or it was going to be, oh, they're kind of mid now and they are just kind of Arcade Fire. And I don't think either has totally happened. I feel like it's actually been received fairly well, but I've heard a few people say, eh. But yeah. Tell me a little bit of your perspective on approaching this album.
Well, considering that I only really listened to a single, BCNR album before this, that being Ants From Up There, and I really, really liked Ants From Up There, I guess I didn't really have much of a reference for what BCNR is actually known for, if Ants is indicative of what they've usually done. If it is, and if I kind of went in with that mindset, I figured that I was just going to be disappointed. Here's because the point is, Isaac Wood is a very, very core part of the band. It just, like it or not, that is a fact of what they were doing. He was, lead vocalist. He was very much responsible for a lot of the lyrics being as good as they were. And I just kind of thought, if they're going to continue being a band, I cannot go in expecting it to be like Ants. It's going to be its own thing.
Yep.
And I want to say it's probably the biggest thing about the album is that it is very much its own thing. It is an independent property. It doesn't even feel like, at least in a lot of ways, Ants itself, it's definitely got its own voice, it's got its own strengths, and it's got its own weaknesses, but I really do feel like it's a new footing for them to move forward on, because they're basically, they're trying to not really reinvent themselves, but find out how to even move forward in their own way without Isaac. And I honestly really think they did a good job. I fucking love this album. I thought it was great. So a little bit skeptical when I was first listening to it, especially like the first few tracks, but I really came to love it, especially like in the back half.
Yeah. I'll touch on that particular take in a moment. But I really agree with what you said about how, like, you couldn't really approach this record. In a way, you almost couldn't approach this record thinking of it as a new Black Country New Road record if you were expecting the way we've seen them before. Because, I mean, like, yeah, there was a big sonic progression from For the First Time to Answer Up There, but they're still at their core very much like Isaac Wood everywhere, all over it. It is this emotionally rich, post-rocky, kind of heavy, but at the same time, there's that beauty to it as well with some of the, like the strings and the horns. It has its own spot. And when you go into Forever Howlong, I was really pleasantly surprised, not pleasantly surprised, I was happy that they didn't try and emulate that. That they didn't just try and do Ants from Up There, but without Isaac. Because if they had done that, it would not have worked. And I would have just thought this album was just, like, worse. I don't think it's better, because Ants from Up There is just that good to me. But I will say I agree. This album's really great. And I don't really know what else to say about it. Like, I said it before, and I've been saying it now. Kind of impossibly sized shoes to fill. But they did probably the best that they could. Yeah, but I want to touch on the take you said about, because I know you said it when we first listened to the record, and I don't know if it's a take you still hold or if you were just referring to it, this album being potentially backloaded. I thought that as well initially, but I actually kind of disagree now. I think it's fairly evenly spread. I do think if I had to pick a stronger half, it would still be the back, but the front has grown on me. Especially the tracks The Big Spin and Socks. The Big Spin is such an earworm. I feel like, I don't know, it's such a goofy, wacky song, very whimsical. Like, the chorus is them singing about, the lemons will make a comeback this year. The beats will join us this time around the sun. Like, it doesn't really mean much of anything, but, or like it does, but not on the surface. But I kind of love it. I kept finding myself repeating the, you fetch the apples, I'll bake the pie. And I was like, it kind of got stuck in my head. I actually really like The Big Spin. And it introduced, when we first listened to the record, me, and I'm sorry, I'm yammering. I'll give you a point to touch on. When we first listened to the record and we got to the second track, we got to The Big Spin, I immediately picked up on something that would go on to be very much the case throughout the whole record, and that's the way the songs flow. And the word I keep referring to is meandery. They don't seem to have as much of a verse, chorus as even songs on Ants did. They feel a lot more free-flowing. What do you think about that?
You kind of said a lot, and I wanted to say a lot to all of it, but then you kind of start to forget as you can maybe forward. So we're going to wind back a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to wind back a little bit.
Go ahead.
So, first of all, I want to mention that I really did like Ants from Up There. I'll say the one thing compared to me to you is that because I was listening to it, like, you know, at a later point in my life, literally it was like a few weeks ago I listened to it the first time, it doesn't really have that much of like an emotional connection to me, so I feel like I was able to better judge in comparison that album to this one.
Yeah.
I want to make that clear before I say anything else. When I did say, like, originally I thought the album was backloaded for like the first time through, because the first time I kind of listened to it, wasn't really sure what they were doing at the part, because it kind of felt like, as you said, it was a bit meandery. The kind of tempo shifts back and forth. It gets fast, it gets slow, it gets really, really bouncy with the lyrication and the vocalist. Then it kind of slows down and kind of goes to a more like drone kind of thing. I wasn't sure about it at first, but you mentioned something when we listened to it the first time, and that I really, really agree with, is that when you listen to it more, you kind of start just recognizing what they're doing. This
Yeah.
album is really, really, really great. It gets better the more you listen to it, the more you start being
Yes.
familiar with its like tactics, because the more
Yep.
you start understanding what they're doing. And I almost like 100% agree with you. I still think the back half is better, but I really, really like the front half now that I kind of understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
One thing I really, really like, especially that consistently, it stays out the entire album. And this is just a general like compliment I'm going to say, because I love the vocalist. I love Georgia Ellery. I love her so much. She at times, for like a lot of her lyrics when she goes out, is a very, very, very fun canter when it comes to it.
Yes.
Like a very, very fun bouncing rhythm. You mentioned it.
Pick up my
Big Spin.
boots and hop,
Exactly.
skip or step. Like, I love that bit.
it just-
it's so fun.
It just gets so fun. Literally every single song has a moment like that, and it's just so good. Like I adore her. I think she knocks it out of the park the entire record. And while she's obviously not going to be Isaac Wood for her own voice and for the own take like on the band, she takes it in a direction I think is very, very distinct. I think she takes it in a direction that is very, very much suited to their current strengths. And I think it honestly just works within the strengths of the entire album as a whole. It's very, very fun. It does move around a bit. It kind of feels a little bit aimless, but as that kind of grows on you, I
Yeah.
really started to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I will
Especially,
say,
sorry.
I'll say, I still don't think like Socks and Salem Sisters, those two are my favorites on the record. I'm still like, they're okay, but I still really like them. I've grown to appreciate them more, but I really do like the Big Spin. I'm glad you brought that one up.
Yes, the Big Spin's really. I watched Fantano's review on it, and it was his least favorite song on the album, and I was upset because I actually really like the Big Spin. But Socks and Salem Sisters, I don't like Socks. I feel like is probably the biggest sufferer from the meandery bits, especially as it gets a little bit on the nose with its lyrics, like the whole life is good, and then when they do the whole, they do the corny, here comes the chorus, like some songs will do.
Yes.
And I think it's cute, but I think it kind of comes out of nowhere and doesn't hit as hard for me. Because when the song does do well, I really like Socks. And I kind of forgot how easygoing that song was until I locked in and revisited it. But for like the beginning of it, I guess. But Salem Sisters, I quite like. I like the double vocals when it almost feels like they're talking to each other, which I guess like plays into the track's title and theme. But like, I don't know. I think it's got some really cool parts on it.
I think Salem Sister would be good, specifically if it didn't come after Socks, because honestly, it just kind of feels like a continuation of what Socks does.
That's
I
actually
feel like
true.
if it was its own thing, it would be a lot better. But
Yeah.
it literally, Socks is a 6-minute song. Salem Sisters is 3 minutes, and they're basically doing the same thing, but Socks just does it in like a longer form. It kind of loses you at points, and it kind of brings you back. That's really all I have to say. And I don't want to expect it again. I don't make it seem like they're bad. I've really grown to really like them now. I really do enjoy, especially like the moments where it kind of just comes up and it really starts picking up. It just starts pulling you in. They start picking up. I really like that stuff. Just like if they were coming out of the entire record, I would say like the two songs I just don't care for. It would probably be those two.
Interesting. I'm curious because I have like my own bit that I had kind of written in my brain as I was coming home from work today about two songs in particular on this record. One of which I remember you not caring for too much, and you didn't mention it yet. That song's the opener, Besties.
The opener?
Yeah.
I like the opener. I think it's a very, very good indicative opener of what they're actually going to do. It immediately shows you that it's not going to be, obviously, like the Hardcore Patch records.
Yeah.
It opens up its own voice. I really like it. I just don't have a lot to say on it because it's kind of just fun.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I had a take that I had thought up when listening to it. I was kind of like singing along to it because, I sing along to music in the car. I'm human. I have a soul. And
do you?
When it got to the second chorus, I realized, I was like, why do they change the lyrics here? Like, I feel like that song would just be better if they repeated the first chorus or extended it with the second chorus on the first chorus. Like when it brings up the, you make me cry, babe, yeah, and then it brings up the chorus, I'm expecting it to do the, I know what's expected of me bit again, but then they change the lyrics completely, and I'm like, what? Now I'm lost. Like, I feel like that might just be something I need to get used to, but I don't know.
He's being real, though. He's being real though.
I feel like
I know what you're talking about, and I kind of honestly agree. It feels like sometimes when they break away from the main, I want to say the main chords, the main lines they're doing, they're kind of just doing it just to do it.
yeah.
Like not for like an actual reason. They're just doing it because they want to do something different, because they want to make it more. We're not exactly like their other music, and I feel like there's kind of a reason that a lot of music does follow a pretty standard structure sometimes, because people like patterns. People like it when they can kind of recognize what's going to be coming. People kind of like it when just the rhythms and all that they fit into the sort of understanding we have. And if you keep trying to break away from that and make your own voice, you kind of run the risk of just doing something that doesn't work, that kind of just doesn't make sense. Though for this album, I want to say it's not like a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker by any means.
Yeah.
But that thought definitely could come up to me. That's a very, very good point.
And because the thing is, like, and the main reason I thought of it is Bestie is like, it's the lead single, it's the opener. And you can just kind of tell from the way it sounds, the way it's put together, this is meant to be like the regular song on the album. Like, Besties is to me, when I hear it, I think it's like, okay, this is the single. This is the song that they want anybody to hear and be like, yeah. But I feel like it's just enough not that it kind of loses a little bit of that touch. The other track I wanted to talk about, though, is Happy Birthday, because a take that I still have from initial listen is that song is just a better version of Besties. I love Happy Birthday. It is one of my favorites on the album. It's so good.
It's so good. Okay, so here's the thing. The entire album, the energy kind of starts off really, really high, and then it just slowly starts to go down the entire way until basically the final track where it kind of picks back up again. And I feel like Happy Birthday kind of is, in my opinion, their turning point of when it becomes a great album to an awesome album. Because Happy Birthday fucking pops off.
Yeah,
like it is exactly like you said. I feel like it is just, it's almost like a lot more clear. Like Besties is kind of a bit more muddled. It's kind of like the idea is a little bit less formed. Happy Birthday is just more developed. It's the idea taken to a more like shapely form. It's more cognizant. They know what they're doing for it. And it makes me think they probably wrote these songs later at some point.
Maybe. But Happy Birthday, if I want to touch on the chorus idea particularly, when I talked about how like I had a problem with Besties having the first chorus and then the second one being completely different, Happy Birthday kind of doesn't, like, its first chorus kind of doesn't have lyrics, which sounds weird. But when I think of, like, the chorus, I think of the swelling part of the song. At the start of it, it has that part with no lyrics. And then it goes into the, how do you make it down the street? Like, that bit right after. And I'm like, okay, second verse. We didn't really have a chorus, but we kind of had a chorus with the instrumentals. It was a hook. It was a moment. And then it brings that back after the second verse with lyrics. And I'm like, okay. And then they keep making it bigger and add more. And you get to the part where it's like, I love something about you, but I don't know what it is. And I'm like, okay, this is really good. It's completely hooked me. Now I am like sunk into the track. And then it brings you to that awesome vocal climax at the end, which is just hitting that high falsetto the whole time. It's so good. It's such a good song. If you're going to listen to any song off of this record, I would genuinely say pick Happy Birthday. Because I feel like it's the one that you can easily latch onto, but is also just phenomenal.
He's truthing.
It also,
He's truthing right now.
You said it's when it goes from a great album to an awesome album, probably because it, in my opinion, starts the best 3-song run on the record, like, easily. With Happy Birthday, For the Cold Country, and Nancy Tries to Take the Night. All phenomenal songs. Like, all contenders for my favorite. They're so good. Ugh. But yeah,
Can we hold up a second before talking about those three? Because those three fucking... Let's keep talking about the front half, because those three...
Yeah. What do we... Two Horses! Because, okay, we'll talk about Two Horses, because that was the point that we initially was like, okay, the album's really good now.
Yeah,
After that track finished, we were both like, alright, yeah, it sold us on Two Horses. And I think that's because, like, when I said Sucks kind of suffers the most from the meandering, I think Two Horses actually benefits from it the most. Or arguably the most. Maybe Cold Country does more. But when that song really gets going, it grabbed me, very similarly to Happy Birthday. mainly after the bit about the bar and the guy that winked at her. Is this the one?
It's
and then
about halfway through.
When it brings up the tempo and the double time hi-hats come in, and I'm like, okay, we're locked in now, something's happening, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm like, yes, yes, good, dopamine released in my brain. I quite like Two Horses.
I do too. I think it's a very, again, I said that Happy Birthday was the turning point. Two Horses is like the tipping point towards the turning point, if that makes sense. That's when I locked in. Halfway through, I locked in. I was like, okay, little bit like kind of feels like it's experimenting. It's probably gonna be like this the whole album, but then it feels like it finally found its voice, what it wants to do.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to mention, and I feel like it's just kind of, it does get better like near the back end of the album, but kind of sticks out to me the front of the album. And the one thing that I kind of honestly expected to suffer in the transition from A Foot to this is that I do not care for many of the lyrics of this album. I think they're fun. I think they're good, but I just like, they don't do it for me. They don't really do it for me.
No, that's fair, and I can see why, because it was a very similar issue for me on a lot of the tracks from the live album. Whereas Answer Up There is talking about a lot of very real shit and like feelings and experiences. Forever Howlong and just in general the new BCNR material tell stories. They're not grounded in reality, and I feel like that very much separates it. I mean, you can even see it in just like the vibes of the record, the artwork of the record. I mean, the first two, you've got like the plane and the bag on like the wooden background, and then for the first time they're running on a grassy hill, and then this album cover is like what? It's like a crayon drawing. It's completely like whimsical and different.
It's Yume art. That's what I figured.
Yeah, and like that. Yeah, I can see that. Like that doesn't personally resonate with me as much either. But I really like how they tell the stories. It really sticks with me, especially Two Horses is one of my favorite like storytelling songs on the record. I was very sad when he killed her horses. Spoilers, by the way. I remember when we listened to it, and the way that she sings it too, I think is really funny. And I watched him kill my horses. So I was like, no. But I don't know. I like it. It paints a very vivid image, and the following track, Mary, I think is also pretty great, and does a similar thing. It paints a very vivid image in my head.
Opinion. Mary does it better.
Yeah, I think Mary's is more emotionally compelling, but I think they put the picture in my brain about the same. But in terms of like the whole turning point to tipping point to whatever, I do think it is like the start of the album's like here, and then Two Horses, Mary, Happy Birthday. Then you're at the peak, and you kind of ride that to the end.
I think the reason that I just I don't care for the direct storytelling approach when it comes to music is when music wants to tell a story, it should do it mostly with its instrumentation. If you're just going to be telling me a story, it's basically like a lullaby. I prefer when it comes to like more like an emotional connection because that has more interpretation to it. True. I can, even if I can't connect to it directly with what it's like saying, I can pull whatever I want from it. If I can't pull what I want from something like a story, then I just can't connect with it. I'm not going to be getting to it as much, and I'm only going to be getting to it from the vibes. To be granted, though, one thing that I want to say is completely as strong as it has been in like the earlier BCR record, A Foot, is the instrumentation. The vibes on this entire record are pristine. They're perfect. They're awesome.
Yeah,
100%. I adore them.
Yeah, I had no doubt about that. Like, that was the one thing I knew after Isaac left. I was like, okay, but, like, this shit's still gonna be beautiful.
Yes.
Like,
and it was.
It was. And I'm very glad. I think I actually mentioned that in my recap video. I was like, the band behind him is still so fucking talented. Like, I know it's gonna be really good. And yeah, they can do many different things on here, like with those instrumentations, kind of like on that other record. Like different vibes. We have the more euphoric cuts like Besties and Happy Birthday, or even like The Big Spin. And then you have the more like slow going moments like Mary or Nancy Tries to Take the Night or parts of For the Cold Country, or even like the last song. But yeah, it's very good. I agree. It's
truthing right now. I like how it just brings in basically every single, classic instrument. You got the guitars, you got the drums, you got, they bring in the fucking banjo, they bring in the goddamn flute. When you bring in a flute, that's when I die. I pull out the Mac 10 and I blast 10 rounds into my head when you bring that in because they did that in A-Foot too. And I couldn't handle it, man.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah, it do hurt. I remember when we did once in a long, long while, you were like, "That's cheating. The flute should be
not fair. It is.
Yeah.
They're hitting the cheat codes. Anyway.
Speaking of hitting the cheat codes,
talk about the last three.
Well, not the last three, but the big three that we are speaking of.
The big three.
For the Cold Country.
Sorry.
I remember I showed this to a streamer friend of mine. They were doing like song requests on their stream. And that song, I did Happy Birthday, and they liked it. And then I did For the Cold Country. And when it started, they were like, what is this? What am I listening to? And then as the song progressed, they were like, okay. Like, because they weren't very tuned into the music. They were playing a game. But I sometimes I just like to throw songs their way to see what they'll think. And when it got to a certain bit of the song, the whole like, can I make a cup of coffee? Ba-na-na-na, and it started to pick up. They were like, oh, okay. And they like actually saved it. And I was like, yeah. I feel like Cold Country takes a second to grow on you, but the moment it does, it's going to be a favorite track for anybody who listens to this record.
Yes.
It's absolutely phenomenal.
God. That was the moment when I was like, holy fuck. I had to sit there for a moment and was like, Jesus,
I remember.
Because
you had the most guttural reaction to that song.
It's extraordinarily distinct. Like it is a track that stands out. Those three tracks like in conjunction stand out very, very well. But it is something that is like, holy shit. Okay, what are they doing? I don't even know what it exactly is because it is very emotional. It obviously tells a story, and I think in this one, like they kind of start picking up on the lyrics as well. I started to enjoy those more and started to pull more from them as well. Which and honestly just kind of makes a lot of the tracks pale in comparison, in my opinion, because they're just so good. It's just like, if I'm going to listen to this album, I'm going to skip to like Happy Birthday most of the time and maybe do a full listen. That being said, one thing I actually found myself doing when I was listening to this entire album was doing it in my own time rather frequently. Whenever we do like these album things and I have to do research on them, sometimes I end up being a bit busy, or sometimes I just always end up like having the motivation to listen to the albums before, like doing notes and shit like that. Sometimes I'll do them like in the car. This one I kept finding myself returning to very, very frequently. I was doing it in the car, I was doing it also doing work over and over again. And I don't really know why that is, but I found this album really, really growing on me in that regard. I've listened to this album a lot more during like the period between which we've first listened to it and now, more than any other album we think we've done so far, except probably the new sound.
Ooh,
I don't know why. Something about it, especially near the back half, it just grabbed me.
Yeah, I can see that. I will say, I wanna touch on the point about the lyrics, because you talked before about how like the story is, if you can't draw any emotion from them, it's kind of like whatever. It's kind of like just a lullaby.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely like. Yeah, that is more hit or miss on the record. But when you get to Happy Birthday, especially, but even Mary, I think, does it to quite a good extent. Those stories do start to have very real translation for me to actual emotions and experiences. Happy Birthday, there's actually like a very specific person and thing I have in mind when I listen to Happy Birthday. And For the Cold Country, I don't really need to explain why that one might have emotional connection to anybody ever. Same thing with Nancy, Just Take the Night. Like the title track, when you really engross yourselves in the stories and the ones that pull you in the most, I think you really can get something from them. Yeah,
I do. I don't know. Maybe it's just the more like the appeal. Maybe it's the way they did it that kind of drew me in more, and then it kind of maybe connected the stories, or if it's just genuinely written better. I honestly can't tell, but I do like it more. I do enjoy it more. I think it's more, I don't want to say like appealing, but it's more easy to connect with for most people.
I think, okay, I'm going to make a comparison to the new sound because, first of all, I think that's a very appropriate record to compare to for several reasons, okay? Because it's a very similar origin point to Forever Howlong being the windmill scene, which means nothing to you. But I think I've told you that Black Country New Road and Black MIDI were friends. They were very good buddies back in the day, back when they were both getting their starts, like late 2010s. And though they would diverge pretty drastically in what they would go on to make, you can still draw a very clear connection between them. And when I think of a song that gives that tells a story that is clearly rooted in fiction, but gives a lot of fucking like really powerful emotion from it, holy holy. I mean, like, yeah, neither of us have paid somebody to act like they're in love with us, but we can draw a lot. Have you? Have you?
What do you take me for, man?
A dignified individual.
Yes. You think I need to pay these peasants to love me? They ought to be paying me.
Everyone knows I'm holy. No. But I think to an extent, certain tracks on here can do something similar. Like I said, Mary kind of paints a picture of somebody who's very tormented by the world around them, and things like that. Two Horses could be like a story of betrayal, although it's nowhere near as strong as Holy Holy, I don't think. Except for maybe For the Cold Country. That track like really hits.
I think it hits for different reasons, or at least different musical reasons. But yes. I agree.
Yeah. I really derailed my brain by thinking about the new sound.
Let's talk about the next one. Nancy tries to take the night because it continues being peak.
Yes, true. It does continue being peak. I quite like the kind of back and forth mentally that goes on in a lot of that track. With the whole like it's painting this scene that can on the surface be very whimsical and a little bit like strange, but and then it asks like do you want it? Do you want it? It kind of poses that question. It's really interesting. I like that framing device.
In a place it is now. Take that smile off your face when you're dressed like a kid. Honestly, I think when the slower songs come out as well, Georgia's performance I think really sticks out because it's more of a focal point. Yes. I don't know. She draws you in a lot, and Nancy Widow tries to take the night, and Forever How Long as well. They're very very slow tracks. They're very very like lower key. And it gives you more time to kind of marinate in what they're doing. Originally, the first time you said that, like, between Cold Country and Nancy kind of gripped you more as, like, the wow. And I'm still debating on between those two, which one I kind of end up liking more, because it flip-flops. I really like Cold Country, but Nancy, it is, like, it's very tender. It's a very tender story. It feels, like, exposed. And with the story it's actually kind of trying to tell, of course it is. There's like a very genuine attitude behind it. Like with the way that Georgie's performance comes, it feels like stripped down. Like again, it feels like stripped down and naked down to the core. And I really like it because of that. Like I don't even know, I can't directly, relate to the main theme it has. Yeah. Obviously, because I'm a male, I cannot get pregnant, but I can take the emotions out of it because it almost sounds like this and Forever How Long almost sounds like a bit of like a lullaby. You know what I mean?
No, it sounds like a fairy tale. It sounds like it's rooted in fantasy, and a lot of the tracks kind of, ring that way. That's kind of what I was alluding to a lot when I talked about Two Horses, but you could say that about a lot of the record. Even the title track as well, or I could even say especially the title track. But yeah, it feels like a series of stories that can be drawn to real experiences. I really like that. Yeah, it's really neat. I will say a little bit of a confession for me. I still really need to fully lock in on the last two songs on the record. I know in my brain they're very good, and I have a general kind of like amorphous idea of what they are, but I need to like adjust to them more. Because like this album, tying back to the thing about it being meandery, it takes a while to kind of sit with me, just because like the way the tracks flow. It's harder for me to hook on to certain things. I hook on to pieces. I may not even know where those pieces come from, but to get a whole track, I don't know. Maybe that's just me though. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe my brain just didn't work the past week.
I'm the same way. The only reason that I even managed like to connect to the later songs as much as I have now, and then the other songs as well, because I've listened to them so much at this point. I know what they're doing. Like I'm seeing the patterns. I'm not like being blindsided. It makes me feel like if they take that into account and make like their next album like less meandery, it could really, really shine.
Yeah.
And like be a lot better for people to like hook onto. Or maybe this is the kind of thing they want to go with. I don't know. Maybe this is all completely intentional, not like really experimental. I don't know. But I will say, I've listened to Forever Howlong, the title track, so many goddamn times. That might be my single most listened to song on the entire record by this point.
Damn.
I don't know if it's my favorite track, though, that being said, but it is the one. It is God, that one. I don't even know what to say about it. It
stuck out to me very much because I said it very much feels like a story before, and I stand by that. It paints it is basically just painting a setting for you the whole time. It is describing things that are happening, right? It's another cold gray morning, out for a walk, slipping on the wet leaves, merges with the blood rushing from the cracks of my head, merges with the red and amber mulch. Like, the man and the dog, the man reaches down to pick up the shit. Like, it's painting a very vivid image, but it's a very, like, it's strangely real compared to the rest of the record. It feels like something that could just happen. It's so grounded compared to a lot of the other tracks on the record, which is funny.
Yeah, it's kind of the rest of the album, like tracks kind of like float around in a bit of like a nebulous space. Like they can be like ideas, stuff like that, maybe a bit more fantastical. Forever How Long straight up is just reality. Forever How Long is you sitting in your room rotting. You listen to this. You listen to that song. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Not speaking from experience or anything, that would be stupid. But it's a really great. I do think it is interesting as well, specifically that they made it the title track.
Yes. It's funny. What I was gonna say before, I didn't know there was gonna be a title track, because they name dropped the album in Besties. So when I heard that song, I was like, oh, this is the title track. Because, you know, do you want to play forever? How long can I play? Like that bit. I'm like, oh, okay, so they said the name of the album. But no, there's a title track. They don't even say the name of it.
Forever How Long? Yeah, they don't say it at all in the entire song.
No, I was going to say, they don't say it in the song, but so I thought that was funny when I was like, oh, there actually is a title track. And it ended up being so different from everything else. And I think it's intentional. I gleaned this, I'm going to reference the Fantano review again, but I glimpsed it from the description of that video of all things, that I think Forever How Long is very much painting a grandiose picture of reality. It kind of encapsulates this energy of living in a fantasy world while being stuck in the real one. And I really like that. Mm-hmm. It's really good, and I think the title track really ties that idea together. Kind of bringing you back down to earth and saying like, hey, buddy. buddy. Yeah. The title track's quite good. I really
do like it. It is a highlight for me. It is one that I find myself tenderly approaching as like, okay, I just need a little bit of misery. Just need like a little bit. Just like turn it. Just like a second, and I turn it on, and it's just like, I don't know. The last 3 tracks might just be like my misery cut for the future.
Yeah, and it brings us to the last song, "Goodbye, Don't Tell Me," which kind of follows that. It's another one that feels very grounded in reality. Maybe not as like desperately so as the title track, but it still very much is. You know, like some of the first lines in the song: "I tap as I talk, I text while I walk to you. I tell you I'm here. I wait by the door up the stairs, then I'm there. How was your day? Are you in pain still?" Like it's very mundane things, but they still resonate a lot more, arguably for that reason, and it kind of ties back. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, well, it kind of translates like the back half kind of goes there's like a pervading melancholy over it. It's kind of like it goes into like more of an accepting state where it's like,
Yes.
okay, not happy, but more like literally it is what it is.
Yeah. I do think it kind of, to me, ties back to Besties, which I think is cool.
Mm.
I'm not entirely sure what it's trying to do in context of the whole record, but I think it ties back to Besties because Besties is very much about like, if you like, this is me just basically quoting Genius. Um, it's about
What we
like
need.
a friendship between two girls, and one girl likes the other girl a bit more than friends and doesn't know what to do about it.
Best
And
friend.
this track kind of recalls to that a little bit, like the whole "I've fallen in love with a feeling" bit, "I've fallen in love with a fear I believe in," like that refrain coming back throughout the whole song, kind of to me ties it back to Besties. Don't you think? By the way, I will say, really quick side tangent because we already talked about Besties. I really like that about Besties. I like what it is. I like thematically what it is. I think it's really cool, and I like how it executes some of that. I like the whole, and what about you? In fact, don't answer that. Like, I don't want to ruin our friendship. As much as I want to know, I can't do that because we got to stay friends. That's cool. But yeah, closing track.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
good.
like it. I think it's good specifically also as a closing track. It doesn't
Yes.
immediately drop you off after some of the more drab drab as in like emotionally moments at before that.
Yeah.
It lets you off on a nice spot.
Yeah. The only
but I also
BCNR
think
closer that does that.
yeah. I like it for that reason. I think it's not like my favorite track or anything like that. I don't think it's like a real standout one, and if
Yeah.
it wasn't for the fact that it was like a final one. But I think it's really very good. I think it's almost like structurally, it is exactly what it needed to be. I like it for that reason.
Yeah, as it's the only one that actually leaves you in a good spot. To be fair, yeah, the first two basically just end with Isaac screaming in pain. You haven't heard Opus? That's my favorite Black Country New Road song, by the way. A little bit of Bimler trivia. If we talk about for the first time on the show, I'll definitely mention that. But Goodbye, what is it? Yeah, Goodbye, Don't Tell Me. Sorry, I'm thinking of another song that's very similarly titled. I don't know if Jordan's told you about that one. There's a song called Just Don't Say Goodbye, I Hate Goodbyes, which is a closer on a completely different album. But this one, yeah, it's very good. I don't think it's better than the other two.
Specifically like about Goodbye is the last ending bit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like actually the ending of Goodbye. I think that specifically that it ends with energy rather than like ending on something that's a lot more low key is something that kind of like it picks you back up so you can go through the emotional gauntlet they're putting you through, but not end completely unable to do anything. It's like pick yourself back up, you can keep going, and I really like it for that reason. It's also just very fun. It's very, very, very beautiful, very, very thematic, very, very much like wow, big final thing. Then it's over, but it's not unsatisfying.
Yeah, and I think that also serves like the fact that it ends on a high note energy-wise kind of also contributes to tying the album back to Besties and kind of allowing you it doesn't feel very jarring to loop the record, to go back. And because Besties is a very euphoric song, and you could almost see like the fact that For the Folk Old Country, and then even more so Nancy, and then even more so the title track, there's a decline in energy. And Goodbye kind of brings it back a little bit. So you could almost see it as like a U-B, and now you're back with Besties and the big spin in the high energy again. And that's cool. I don't know if that's intentional, but it's neat.
It sounds like it's intentional. It'd be weird if it wasn't, I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, in general, I love this record. Like, genuinely, I'm very pleasantly surprised at how much I love this record. Because I very much was one of the people who was like, Isaac's gone. The Black Country New Road's over. They're not gonna make anything. It's not gonna be the same. And like, yeah, it's not the same, but it's great. I'm glad. I'd rather we have this than nothing. Like easily. I really enjoyed this album, and like I'm gonna give it a score in this video. But whatever score I give it, it's gonna go up. Because I still haven't fully like linked with this album yet. Even like more so than the other time we did a new record on the show, episode 2. Damn will show us how. I was still much more adjusted to that record than this one. Partially because I had heard it before I showed it to you, unlike this one, which I waited.
It's also Tremonti.
It is also Tremonti.
Will always just be being peak forever.
Well, true, but like that album is a lot more, like I said, like I said about the opposite of what I said about this record. It's very straightforward in terms of its formatting. The songs don't meander.
Yes.
They're very verse, chorus, verse. And like some people will say that's a criticism. I don't think so. But this record is very fluid, and that takes me longer to get used to. So I already like it as much as I do, and I'm not fully adjusted to it. That should say something about its quality. Because even the stuff that I don't have a full grasp on, I know I like. And I don't have a full grasp on them yet. So, I don't know. I'm kind of yapping about that too much. I'm just going to say now, it's very good. If I had to give it a score right now, I would say a flat 90.
Okay.
Which is...
So now it's going to come to part of the video.
Really great.
Where I say something.
Yes.
A bit controversial.
Oh.
So I mentioned before the beginning, I don't think this album is properly comparable to Ants From Up There. I still think that. I completely think that would be like comparing... They're basically almost two different genres at this point.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
But I really, really like this album. And I think in its own way, it has proven itself, and crucify me if you think I'm wrong, but to be an equal, in at least some ways, to A-Foot for me. I kind of listened to A-Foot as I was doing this, translating between the two, and it was like, they're doing different things.
Yeah. They are like very...
I like that. I like that.
Oranges.
But I think, in their own way, they both do what they're doing very, very well. I think, and even from there, Forever How Long has the chance to rise even higher, because this is probably the closest album we've listened to so far since New Sound to become a howler from me, to become something that I can really, really connected with. Yes. It is the closest. I can't even say exactly why that is. I'm still trying to figure that out, but just something kept pulling me back. And if they continue doing that, if they fix essentially what wasn't working and improve upon what was, there is the potential, I think, they can become even better than they were before, in my opinion. So I'm going to give this album a flat 95.
Ooh, that's one of the highest scores you've given on the show. Dang.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll raise higher or lower. But I love this album.
Yeah.
Lots.
Yeah.
Despite all my complaints about it, I think it has put this band in a position more than any other album so far, in a great position to improve, because they're basically they're turning a new leaf. They're starting from a new point, and anything that's there that we don't care about can be like adjusted, tweaked, and improved upon. I really, really think it's a good jumping point from them for the future.
Yeah, no. I like when I said like a 90 is very, very good, like the connection I have with the first two BCNR albums and like how good I see that they are, or how good I think they are, that makes me sound way too much like a jackass. I see them and how good they are. No, how highly I regard them. This record competes with them in a way that makes me almost uncomfortable. Like, I agree with you. I think it does a lot of things as good as those records do. And with time, I feel like it's going to fit very comfortably alongside them. It already does. Just truth be told, like a 90, it is like an A+ record for me already, and I still need to it's still growing. So, yeah. I also have learned I need to show you for the first time, so we're gonna do that. Probably after the next episode, which is gonna be this album right here. This one.
That one right there, guys.
We're going back into Radiohead. Right, every other episode we're doing Radiohead albums. This time it's Hail to the Thief. I'm actually very excited for that one. I when I was at work, I was thinking about like, oh, what's the next record? Oh yeah, it's Hail to the Thief. Yeah. I like Hail to the Thief quite a bit. We'll talk about that then. But yeah, anything else you want to say about Forever How Long? Or is it kind
of anything else I want to say about Forever How Long? I really like the album covers.
True.
Like the single covers, like the album covers.
True.
I said it before, it's just like Yumi Nikki art. I really like the album cover.
Yeah.
I get a poster of it.
Yeah. 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 I get a poster of any Black Country Nerd albums. They've got pretty great covers. But yeah,
True.
That's all from us. Join us next week for Hail to the Thief. We released recap videos for the first 10 episodes of the show. If you want to see more from us but don't want to watch 10 hours of content, check those out. Tell us what you think about this new album from Black Country New Road, if you liked it. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? I'm not stealing that. But yeah, and also if you enjoy this video, like, subscribe.
Please.
Lets us know
Please.
we're doing the right thing. You don't gotta beg.
Please. Please.
This is all I have. Please. Rattles tin cup. Please. 1 subscriber.
You don't know what we had to do to keep this shit running. You don't know who we've killed.
I haven't killed anybody. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah, whatever. Bye. I don't care.
Poster of any black